On November 9, 1918, the proclamation of a new republic marked the end of the German Empire, as Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated his throne following the catastrophic defeat in the First World War. Born from the ashes of conflict, the Weimar Republic was formally established on August 11, 1919, when President Friedrich Ebert signed the constitution, creating one of the most progressive and democratic systems in the world at that time. Before ascending to the presidency, Friedrich Ebert was a dedicated trade unionist and politician who spent his early career navigating the complex internal politics of the Social Democratic Party, preparing him for the immense challenges of a post-war nation. Ebert was driven by a desperate need to stabilize a fractured Germany, aiming to integrate diverse political factions into a functioning parliamentary system while preventing the radical socialist uprisings that threatened to tear the young republic apart from within. During this era, Germany faced the crushing weight of the Treaty of Versailles, which imposed 132 billion gold marks in reparations, alongside deep-seated resentment from the military, who promoted the stab-in-the-back myth to blame democratic politicians for the defeat. As the Republic struggled, the Reichswehr, or German military, maintained a suspicious distance from the new government, while paramilitary Free Corps units operated with relative impunity, creating an environment where political violence became an increasingly normalized method of settling disputes. The young democracy faced its first existential threat when the French and Belgian armies occupied the Ruhr industrial region on January 11, 1923, triggering a massive economic collapse that pushed the German currency into total ruin. Visualize the map of Western Germany, where the Ruhr Valley sits as the industrial heartland, now occupied by foreign troops, while the Polish corridor and Danzig represent the painful territorial losses that fueled nationalist anger across the fractured German landscape. By November 15, 1923, the government introduced the Rentenmark to combat hyperinflation, which had reached a staggering 4.2 trillion marks to $1, effectively wiping out the life savings of the middle class and destroying their faith in democratic institutions. The decisive turning point arrived on October 24, 1929, when the American stock market crash triggered the withdrawal of crucial Dawes Plan loans, plunging the German economy into the Great Depression and radicalizing the electorate almost overnight. Gustav Stresemann, the foreign minister, displayed immense courage by negotiating international treaties to stabilize the economy, yet his sudden death in 1929 left a void in leadership that the fragile coalition governments were unable to fill during the crisis. The cost of this instability was immense, as the middle class lost their economic security, leading to widespread disillusionment and a public desire for order that extremist parties like the Nazis and communists were all too eager to exploit. The immediate aftermath of the economic downturn was a total breakdown of parliamentary cooperation, as the Reichstag became a battleground where the SPD, KPD, and NSDAP fought for control, rendering the government unable to pass essential legislation. Contemporary observers and international leaders watched with growing alarm as the political center collapsed, recognizing that the democratic experiment in Berlin was failing to contain the rising tide of radicalism that threatened to destabilize all of Europe. The collapse of the Hermann Müller cabinet on March 27, 1930, signaled the end of functioning parliamentary democracy, as subsequent chancellors began ruling by presidential decree, effectively bypassing the Reichstag and undermining the spirit of the Weimar Constitution. Today, the Weimar Republic serves as a cautionary tale globally, as modern German political systems, specifically the Grundgesetz, were designed with a 5% threshold and a constructive vote of no confidence to prevent the fragmentation that destroyed the Weimar era. A lesser-known fact is that the Weimar Constitution was remarkably advanced, granting women the right to vote and establishing social welfare rights that were decades ahead of many other Western nations during the early 20th century. This history reminds us that democracy is not a self-sustaining machine but a fragile agreement that requires constant vigilance, economic stability, and a commitment to compromise, even when the pressures of extremism and crisis seem overwhelming. Article 48 of the Constitution, intended as an emergency measure, was weaponized by Hindenburg, who issued 5 decrees in 1930 and escalated to 66 in 1932, proving how legal mechanisms can be used to dismantle the very democracy they were meant to protect. By January 30, 1933, the appointment of Adolf Hitler as Chancellor by President Paul von Hindenburg marked the final betrayal of the Republic, as the democratic process was used to install a regime that would quickly abolish all civil liberties. The Reichstag fire on February 27, 1933, provided the pretext for the Reichstag Fire Decree, which suspended basic rights, followed shortly by the Enabling Act on March 23, 1933, which officially ended the parliamentary system and consolidated totalitarian power. Ultimately, The shadow of Weimar continues to influence German decision-making today, creating a Weimar syndrome, where the fear of repeating the mistakes of the 1930s often shapes the nation's cautious approach toward fiscal policy and the management of extremist political movements.